Today we will study a poem in English for the student of ninth class. The name of the poem is A Legend of the Northland. Here, legend means a story which is historical. Northland refers to the area in the northernmost part of the earth near the North Pole. We don't know the exact place where the story belongs to, but it may be of Alaska, Greenland, uppermost area of Russia, and Canada. Students, the poem is a ballad. What is ballad? Ballad is a song narrating a long story in short stanzas, and it is a part of a folk culture, and it is passed on orally from one generation to next. And in this poem, the poet narrates a legend of an old lady who angered Saint Peter because of her greed. So let's start reading the poem. I'm going to explain it to you. Away, away in the Northland, where the hours of the day are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Here, they means people very far away, somewhere in Northland. In this region, the duration of day is very short, and nights are so long. If people go to bed due to cold, they wake up. It is still night time. That's why people couldn't sleep whole the night. Let's move to next stanza, where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bear's cubs in their funny furry clothes. Here poet says, when snow falls in this region, people like to go sledging. Here, harness means tie in neck. Reindeer is an animal that lives in snow. And sledge is a kind of cart that is pulled by reindeers. So, when the snow falls in this region, people like to go sledging by tying reindeers to their sledge to pull them. Because of the cold, children wear heavy woolen and furry clothes that cover them up fully and make them look like bear cubs. Next stanza. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it is true. And yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Here, they means parents in the Northland, and them means children. This means it is. Here, in the Northland, parents tell their children a story, although the poet doesn't think the story is true. It should be told because it teaches children an important lesson. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching, just as he did, Saint Peter was one of the followers of Jesus Christ. Here, the poet begins to tell the story. The story is about Saint Peter. As I told you, he is one of the followers of Jesus Christ. He used to live in the world, and he traveled around the world teaching the world the word of God. As you know, just he did. He came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. Here, hearth means fireplace that we use to cook our food. In this stanza, the poet says, one day Saint Peter came to a woman's door in the Northland just when she was baking cake for herself in the fireplace. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cake to give him a single one. Saint Peter was tired. Faint means he was so weak, so that he is feeling like faint. Saint Peter was tired at the end of the long day during which he had been fasting. He asked the woman to give him only one cake from her cake store. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she cooked at it and she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Here, the woman baked a very small cake, but before she could give it to Saint Peter, she started thinking that it was too big to give away because the woman was miser, so that she was thinking like that. Therefore, she needed another and still a smaller one, but it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. Here, turned it over means reverse. So the woman needed another dough as she feel that the first cake was too large to give away. She needed another dough. She made a smaller cake, but it looked as big as the first one to her. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer. But she couldn't part with that. In her third attempt to make a cake so small, she took an extremely small dough. She rolled and rolled to make it flat. It became as flat as a wafer. Wafer means a thin slice. As the lady was so miser, she couldn't bear to give that small cake away. For she said, my cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away. So she put them on the shelf. The woman said that the cakes that seemed small when she herself ate them, they seemed too big to donate for free. As the result, she kept all them on the shelf and not giving any to Saint Peter. Then good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. Here, provoke means make angry. This angered Saint Peter because he was hungry and he was so weak and needed some food. It is not easy to make a saint angry, but the selfish woman was enough and she was able to do so. Now, Saint became angry and he said, you are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter and fire to keep you warm. Saint Peter put a curse on the selfish woman, telling her she did not deserve to have such comforts of human life like warm fire, a house to live, and good food to eat whenever she wanted. Now you shall build as the bird do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard, dry wood. Here, Saint Peter cursed the woman that she would have to build her own nest like birds do and must dig holes into the hard, dry wood to get food to feed herself. Then Up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed to a bird. The woman went up through the chimney of her house, being speechless, never speaking a word. It's a phrase that means being speechless. She was being speechless and had turned into a woodpecker. This woodpecker could be seen flying out of the top of the chimney. Now the lady turned into a woodpecker. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same, but all the rest of her clothes were burned black as coal in the flame. As the woman had been wearing a bright, scarlet means dark or bright, as the woman had been wearing a bright red cap in the human form, as the woodpecker, her head was still the same shade of red in color. But all her clothes she had been wearing seemed to have been burnt and had become black, like coal. And that is why the color of the woodpecker's body was black. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the tree till this very day, boring and boring for food. The poet says that every schoolboy living in the village had seen this woodpecker, and that she still digs into the bark of these looking for worms and insect to feed on. That's all for the poem. Here the moral of the story is we should not be so greedy that it could harm ourselves. Let's discuss the literary devices used in the poem. First of all, we will discuss the rhyme scheme of poem. Here, the rhyme scheme is A, B, C, and as few rhymes with through B. The whole poem is in the same rhyme scheme A, B, C, B. Next literary device used in the poem is assonance. As you know, assonance is the repetition of a vowel word. Here, away, away. In these words, literary device assonance is used. Next poetic device used in the poem is simile. Here, in this line, look like beer cups. Simile is a device which compares two different things by using the word as or like. So here in this stanza, simile is used, and one more example of simile is thin as a wafer. Here, black as a coal. In these three lines, simile is used. Next poetic device used in the poem is alliteration. Alliteration is the use of the consonant sound in consecutive words. Here, in this first stanza, fourth line, T sound is repeating. In second stanza, funny, furry, and here, third stanza, tell, the tail too. T sound is repeating, and here, woman was. B sound is repeating here. Again, here is the instances of alliteration. Next poetic device used in the poem is Enjambment. Enjambment is the same line running through the paragraph without punctuation mark. Here, in the first stanza, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. Here, in the third line, there is no punctuation mark. The sentence is running into the next line without punctuation, so there is enjambment, and there are more instances of enjambment is in the poem, like and the children look like bear cubs in the funny furry clothes. Here, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Here, and many other lines. Enjambment is used. Next literary device is anaphora. Anaphora is the repetition of the same word in two or more consecutive lines. Here, and ant. Same word is repeating in both of the lines, and two and two. Two lines are also here starting with the same word. In these two instances, used anaphora. Next literary device is repetition. Here, boring, boring, and boring. In this line, repetition is used. Next literary device is consonants. Here, in the second stanza, swift, sledge, snow. In this line, consonance is used. That's all for the day, students. I hope you like it.